What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have F-1 Trillion by Post Malone. All right, where do we get started on Post Malone? I will say from the beginning, I don't know how to fully judge this album. I do listen to a lot of music and I do try to listen to all genres of music, but that deep country, I will say, is not my forte too well. So take this rating with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion because I do still listen to music, so I still wanted to share my opinion on it. But Post Malone obviously is one of those people that don't need any introduction. 85 million monthly listeners on Spotify, a bunch of records, a bunch of plaques, a bunch of billions of streams. This is his sixth studio album, coming out obviously in 2016 with Stoney, and the success that he had with White Iverson really jump-started his career. And I will say I did like Stoney a lot. There are about 5 or 6 songs that I still listen to this day. But then when he dropped Beer Bogs and Bentleys and I listened to it, I understood what Post Malone was. And all culture things aside, all whatever things aside, Post Malone at the end of the day is a bag chaser. He will release any sort of music that allows him to get paid, and I learned that from Beer Bogs and Bentleys. Whatever Post Malone is doing, even if it's not for me, it seems to be for somebody, and he's still making records, and he's still breaking records, and he's still getting paid. So I would just leave it at that and get into the album. F-1 Trillion featuring the Avengers of Country. We've got Tim McGraw, Hank Williams Jr., Morgan Wallen, Blake Shelton, Dolly Parton, Brad Paisley, Luke Combs, Lainey Wilson, Jelly Roll, Ernest, Sierra Farrell, Chris Stapleton, Hardy, and Billy Strings. Post Malone, for some reason, is best friends with all of country music, and he got everybody on his album. 18 songs, 57 minutes long, but half of those are features. I will say the first song, Wrong One, started on a strong foot. I thought that one was pretty good, and so I had kind of unexpected high hopes for the rest of the album once I started listening. But the further you get through this album, the further it feels a bit pointless. Wrong Ones, again, I like that one. It has solid production. I Had Some Help is obviously solid. He's got Morgan Wallen on it. I believe that's the biggest song on the album so far, but he did drop that first. But also, again, Morgan Wallen and him are two massive names that will get the people flocking. But the Dolly song and the Blake song are just meh. Guy for That, I don't think is very good at all. I thought that was lazy. Nosedive is okay. The Jelly Roll song is pointless. The Devil I've Been is just not good. And even a song like Never Love You Again, where it's supposed to be kind of obviously a little bit more meaningful, I didn't think it was very impactful at all. But again, Post Malone is a bag chaser. So even if the song is bad, if you have names like Tim McGraw, Morgan Wallen, Blake Shelton, Dolly Parton, somebody's going to listen to it, even if they don't like it the second time. But getting into the grades, again, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not the most heavy straw hat, whiskey pouring country man in the world, so I don't know how much of a validation my judgment on this album is. But for production, I gave it a 7.5. There was nothing too bad, but there was nothing too good either. Wrong Ones I thought was solid production, but the rest is country production. So I'm not going to give it a bad grade because I don't know if that is something that people want to hear because I'm not really in that scene. For vocals and lyrics though, I did give both of them a 3.5. For vocals, Post Malone does have a decent voice at times. It is raspy, it is kind of more raw, and I think that works at sometimes, but he also has this more higher pitched nasally kind of voice that he runs with sometimes as well. And I think there were a few points in the album where that wasn't really working for me. But half of the album's production and vocals are also other artists. So I have to take that into account as well. But for lyrics, again, the 3.5. Basic country lyrics, pouring a whiskey with my girl on a F-1 truck bed, you know? Like, it's a 3.5. Middle, just, it's passing. It is what it is. Cohesion, it did give the highest grade of this album as a 10. The cohesion, country music, and country all-stars coming together to just make CMA hits. They could probably play this whole album at the CMAs and it would work because it's got so many different people that would be at the CMAs playing anyway. For originality, again, I gave it a 7.5. I don't think I'm the one to judge the originality because I'm not listening to all of this other country music, so I wouldn't be able to identify a reused melody or reused production or anything like that from somebody else's because I'm not listening to it. So I gave it a 7.5 to just give it a fair 7.5. For care though, for care, I did give this album a 6. That is a care for the music lens. If I was grading a care for career decisions, I would give it a 10. Again, this is a album to chase a bag. You get every country star that you can think of, put them all together, and this is what you get. Post Malone just happens to be the lucky enough guy to be the middleman in all of it. But having them all together does not mean that it's good, and it also doesn't mean that it needed to come out. So I did give it a 6 for quality and care. But a plot twist to me anyway. I don't follow Post Malone on any social media or anything like that, so I wouldn't have really known until I did this review. He did release an extended cut, a deluxe, if you will, F-1 Trillion Long Bed. And this is an extended cut of the album, but all the features are gone. It is just 9 new songs of just him. I think this further proves the fact that he's a bag chaser, which I respect. Get your money. I like my bag too. Almost all 9 of these songs are better than the rest of the album. You've got an additional about 25 minutes of just Post Malone working. And a song like Dead at the Honky Tonk is actually pretty good. I think if he, again, bag chasing and furthering your life and your career, I respect it. But if you wanted to, and just made this album or this disc 2, the long bed part, its own little thing after the fact, and said, hey, F-1 Trillion was my introduction to country, and this is my own work on country, because again, there's no features, there's no Dolly Parton to carry you. I think that would have been a better, more respectable way to enter that scene. But he's about his money. His biggest song is obviously on the Spider-Man track. Obviously, that's a massive thing. He's got Fortnite with Taylor Swift. Like, obviously, he knew that shit was gonna bang because it's Taylor Swift and Post Malone. So he's got a lot of money. I don't think people understand or give him credit for his business decision, because obviously he is an artist, so everybody thinks he wants to make music. But from somebody that likes to chase a bag, I can tell that he wants the bag too. But with a 7.5, a 3.5, a 3.5, a 10, a 7.5, and a 6, this does put this album at a 76. So again, just an average grade. When you have so many people on this album, people are gonna listen. It's country. They have their whole other world with them just alone. Big country names all on one conglomerated album. It's a 76. It's if you like Post Malone, go rock with it. If you like country music, go give it a listen. If you don't like Post Malone, if you don't like country music, if you're on the fence about Post Malone, just don't listen to this album. It's not really necessary. Unless you're gonna go bareback horse riding through Montana tomorrow, it's just another Post Malone release that he's getting paid for. F-1 Trillion, Post Malone, 76. I'll see you in the next one.